Alrighty.
I am so excited to be here with Terry. Take two. Hey Terry, how are you?
I'm terrific.
So
I'm
this is our
terrific.
second go around. We tried it
Right,
once and then the sound didn't come out.
right.
So we're back at it, and you haven't aged a day, and
That's
the
nice
world's a
to
little
hear
different.
because I turned 70 later this month.
Oh, you're kidding.
I
That's
enter a new
exciting.
decade.
And what are you gonna do to celebrate?
I don't know what we're going to do yet. We haven't even, we thought about maybe going up to Santa Fe. It's an only hour from here and spending a couple nights because there's never enough time to see everything we want to see. But we'll see. It depends on, even a normal day is fine, so.
Oh my God, wait a minute. So before we jump into this, I really need to talk to this about this with you. Okay, so you are an artist, and where are you?
I am in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and have
Amazing.
been here about a little over 4 years.
Where were you before then?
Northern Minnesota, where it's frigging cold.
How exotic.
We were up in northern Minnesota for 16 years. I taught at a small university there after teaching 20 some years in the Minneapolis area. So
Oh my God, I love it. I love educators. But wait, let's go back 70 years. What an exciting moment to kind of reflect and have this conversation with you. How do you do it? How do you stay optimistic? How do you keep going?
well, given our time that we're in right now, that's more challenging than it ever has been. I and without art, I think I would be in big trouble. But you know, the cliche thing, I've always been kind of the glasses half full. I tend to um, think that about people and events and things, and so that's how I approach stuff, like that
I love
generally.
it.
And my husband, dear Ron, is definitely the other side of that. So they say like opposites attract. So who knows?
How long have you been together?
46 years.
So this is super like validating to me as a person, as a content creator, to be able to have a conversation with you and to be able to see a reflection of myself, right? To be like, wow, you've been with your partner as a gay man, to see someone who's been with their partner, husband for 40 years gives me such lift, right? Like, oh, we're gonna get through this pandemic and we're gonna have another, 30 years. We're gonna have, you know what I mean? And that's
Right.
beautiful. So thank you for showing up like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So he's not an artist. He's not
We met actually in college. He was in an art class.
oh,
He has an art minor. He used to do ultra realistic drawings that would take him 30 hours to do one drawing.
you're
And
kidding.
then he switched over to photography, and now he still does a little bit of that, but not all that much anymore.
That's amazing. Isn't that interesting how we start somewhere and go to the exact same thing, only in a different form? He was
Right.
doing ultra realism. Just pick up a camera.
Yeah. Right.
That's so fun. So tell me about your years in education. How did that feel?
That felt good. I told my second grade teacher that I was going to be an artist. And I had quite a business going for a while because I hated math. And so I told kids that were really good with it, I will draw you these cartoon characters if you do my math worksheet.
Brilliant.
And then I got busted, of course. I had to have the parents come in so, but yeah, it's been for a long time. I always made stuff from the get go.
What characters were you drawing for them?
Back then it was Yosemite Sam and those from that whole thing, and I figured out a way how to do it. I it's amazing. I can't even believe I did that now, but yeah. And so I had such an incredible high school art teacher that I thought, okay, I am going to continue to make art, but I'm doing this because I saw what he did for people in that room, and I went, okay, I'm doing that,
What
you
was
know.
his name?
Carlton Bump was his name.
What
He
a
was an
great name.
incredible jeweler and um, painter. He's a very interesting man. And this is in a teeny town in southeastern Iowa. And the poor guy had a shithole art room, and we did everything in there. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. And we loved him so much that when my class graduated, we lobbied hard, and he was given the industrial arts 3-room suite for him.
Wow.
He's since passed, which is sad, but yeah. So that kind of set me on the path for education. And over the course of teaching for 36 years, I taught all grade levels during that time, from really little kids to university. And I loved them all. I loved all of it. You know, I mean, there's something about having a first grader tugging on your pant leg going, I wish you were my dad. To, you know, you know, college kids, and having them get all excited about, I was prepping them to be art teachers. I was doing that in the ed department and the art department. And so I was able to go full circle in my career from doing it to prepping the next generations of doing that. It was great. It was a great way to end the formal career, if you will.
That
Mhm.
sounds so exciting. But it's interesting how even in your career now as an artist, there's a huge component of community and collaboration, right? Can you tell me a
Yeah.
little bit what's at the
Yeah.
core of that?
Um, Connection,
Mm.
and um, when I really started that is when we moved way up to northern Minnesota, when I got that university job, and it was remote. Like, we were only an hour and a half from the Canadian border. So, you have winter in New York City, you have no idea what what that's like. But anyway, so the art community was way smaller there. I still had art friends and all that, but I, found people online, and then we started connecting and doing art things back and forth together. And it made it doable to live in kind of a more of a remote place. At that time, Ron and I also lived on 22 acres of forest, couldn't even see another house for a couple miles from where we were. We were like out there. Every spring we had bears on our deck, so
That sounds beautiful and terrifying, honestly.
it yeah. And so now we're back in a city in Albuquerque, and I'm good with that.
What a great lesson, right? I think that I learned that lesson during the pandemic, just how connected you can feel and have the satisfaction of a community without really being in a present community, right? Where we were all in
Right.
lockdown, being able to have these collaborations or even just conversations on
Right.
Instagram and such. Can, excuse me, can you tell me a little bit about your last or your most memorable collaborations?
Oh gosh, I've liked them all. Um, I have done a couple very recently with two artists. Matt French, who is a part of the group, in Collage Dream. I met him through you, which is a wonderful thing because it's apparent for sure that that's a big important part of you, and people get that now. And so, and you like click with somebody, and I was so intrigued by this guy. And when I found out some what could be for some people incredible physical limitations or challenges, he is blows me away every time with his artwork. And so we've done a few. We did a house collaboration, we did a articulated paper doll one, and then we recently just did an accordion book one. And you know, it's it's wonderful to make something and have somebody else have part in that, and I have a part in theirs. There's It's hard to beat that. I was trying to explain this the other day to someone. um they were saying, well, you're in Ricochet Gallery here, that's a fun gallery. Are you going to go, there's Ghost Wolf Gallery, I'll bet for sure they would take your work because you would be a good fit for them. I'm not interested in that at this point in my life. If I have a choice of having a show and collaborating with some very cool people, I would go to the collaboration at this point in my life. Don't get me wrong, it's nice to have shows and to get your work out there or whatever, and instead of piling up in the closet, which it does, because you keep making stuff, but that connection part, there's that feeds my soul in a way that nothing else does. And the other collaboration that I wanted to mention that I recently did that I just loved was with Jack Ravi, and he is an artist from Scotland. I don't know whether you know his work or not. He's a very interesting man. I could listen to his accent all day long. Curious guy, from born in Italy but raised in the UK, and so he's got a very interesting accent, and his work is wonderful. And we each did a book collaboration, and his book was tiny. It was like this 2-inch square thing that opened up. It was an accordion book. And then, of course, I flipped him out because I made this thing that there were 2 sections to it, one for him and one for me. And so there were a lot of things to do. And he was going, oh my God, and both books came out so wonderful. And he did, I think I put that on my Instagram. He did a nice video of our collaboration and talked about it, about what that was like. And so meeting people with art, just immediately it's above a superficial thing, because you've already risked and shared yourself with that. You've opened yourself up to that. And I don't know, it's addictive.
It is,
Like
isn't it?
teaching was addictive for me, because the first time I saw a kid get so into my lesson, you saw the spark happen. I went, okay, this is better than any drug in the universe. I am
I
hooked
love
on it.
that. Yeah.
I want more and more and more. And collaboration is kind of like that.
Yeah.
When it comes in the mail, you're going, oh my God, this is going to be so awesome. And so, yeah, I can get carried away with it. About 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I did like 20 accordion book collaborations. And that was like, okay, I have to stop this for now, because I was making both books. And the way that one was is that I made both books. I started one was blank, ship them off to the person. They finish mine, they start theirs, send it back. I finish theirs and send it back to them.
Amazing.
So you have these, books with everybody's stuff in it. And I got to meet some incredible people doing that. Alan Bealey, who is an unbelievable collage artist in Brooklyn, I might
Hmm.
add. Do you know his work?
I don't think I do.
Oh, I think you would. You need to know his work. I'll send you a
Thank you.
link.
Yeah.
And he's a retired graphic designer and exquisite collage artist. And I Carol White, who lives in Cork, Ireland, I met her, and then we started, doing these collaboration things, and I was hooked.
Yeah,
so.
I think it's also very kind of neutralizing in a really great way, right?
Mhm.
Because I think
Right.
artists tend to be very kind of mysterious or aloof deliberately, right? To kind of protect ourselves
Mhm.
from
Right.
people's
Mhm.
opinions or whatever. But when you connect with an artist like that, it really becomes a palpable connection. And I go as far as to hashtagging it as art fam, right? And while that's a great little marketing technique, it's so real, right? Like
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
even with members who are no longer active members or receiving kits, but they're still very much part of a community, right?
Right.
They're still very
Right.
much in the mix and having really exciting conversations, which really makes me happy. And it resonates with kind of this idea in the queer community of like the chosen family, right?
Right. Oh, exactly.
And
Exactly.
it goes a long way.
Yeah, and it the collaborations, I grow as an artist with those because I'll get something from someone that I'm going to collaborate with, and I go, what am I going to do with this? This is awesome, but it is so far from, and it's good. It's like, oh, and then, it can send you down another path even sometimes, which has happened before. It's like, oh, I love this.
Yeah,
And
that's so
you know
exciting.
and I think that's the other hook in it for me, is that it's the challenge. Like, what am I going to do with this to make this work for the two of us?
Mm.
you know
Oh, that's
and then
interesting.
the
Yeah.
other person that gets the stuff from me, they're doing that too. And then and it's magic. You get these things back, and here you've got something from this other person, and you've created a new thing together. So yeah, you can't beat that.
Yeah,
It's
that's really
really
exciting.
exciting.
In
Yeah.
thinking of your work, I it gives me the sense of optimism and playfulness. Is
Oh,
that
I know.
deliberate or does that kind of
And
just happen? Because I know a
you
lot of
know
times our art kind of just takes its own shape without us really
right.
Is that deliberate?
And I tend to be playful, like sometime earlier on in our relationship or whatever. you know After 46 years, we realize he's not going to change that. I'm not gonna change that. But
Right.
we would get ready to go somewhere, and he goes, can you sort of like behave when we go there? Because I would sometimes just do these crazy improv things when we get to somebody's house, and sometimes they were well received, and sometimes it's like, who is this weird person? And you know yeah, I like to have playfulness with that. There's also some intensity in some of my work, and part of that is dealing with um, the estrangement that I have with my whole birth family. Basically, they're gone from my life, and that was one of the hardest but best things that's helped me um, go on. And we could do an hour just about that stuff, and I know you could too. So you know you know and so I work through some of that. Sometimes it's not necessarily in finished pieces. That's where I'll go to my art journals, my
Hmm.
visual journaling, and let it rip in there with imagery. And I find that I can process emotions a lot better with visual stuff than I can with words sometimes. And and this another fun thing that would be fun to do something with the group with you with this is um, working on people developing their visual vocabulary, because that's what it is for me. And people goes, oh yeah, he has chairs in there, or he likes doors, and he has houses and whatever. And someone was asking me that at a show that I had one time, and I just went, you know these are symbols that everybody knows what a chair is. We have all had maybe good and bad experiences with chairs. Was that in the corner because you were bad? Did you pull up a chair because you love this person and you're going to get down into it and have coffee for 3 hours? Or, chairs and the house shape, that's, home is huge to me. And so I need to feel um, grounded and rooted in a place. And so I've always wanted to do a class with that. I eventually will do that, but the that imagery, your own iconographical symbol.
Yes. Oh my God,
you
I
know.
love that. Earlier you said, that you'd be in trouble if you didn't have art. And I
Uh,
think that is such a life raft that as educators, you know,
mhm.
you give
Yeah.
out to people, because you don't have to be a blue chip gallery artist to benefit from the
Oh yeah.
salvation that is art, right?
Yes. Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
let me ask you, in talking about iconography and talking about imagery, you use a lot of like these kind of vintage male figures. Do you identify those as being like gay icons, or gay art, or queer art? It's something I often think about because, as a person with all of these labels attached to them, I sometimes wonder, oh, does this make it Latino art? Does this make it queer art? Does this make it dyslexic art? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm just wondering, like, how deliberate are you when it comes to that?
I it, there's a lot of things about that. I've always been drawn to the vintage stuff and I've always loved that. In fact, when I was in high school, before it was the cool thing to do, I had these vintage old long coats that I'd wear, and I vests from
Me
old
too.
suits that I'd wear, and I've just have always been drawn to that. And I find the look that a lot of those male images have from then is so engaging to me and interesting. There's sometimes an intensity to that. Sometimes there's way gay energy there that I feel from that. Uh, I like, I just got done doing this board book, and I think I did I yeah, I did a video of that where it's a lot of male nude imagery from vintage stuff, and usually it's safe copyright wise if you're
Mhm.
dealing with some photos that are like 200 years old,
Right.
or whatever. You could still probably have some issues if somebody actually owned those photographs, I suppose, but no one's taken me away just yet. But, and somebody said, well, what made you do that? And I said, I don't know. It's just, and it was, sort of a secret story thing. And it just kind of evolved. And that board book was the outcome of, I took a little class from Jack Raby, where he did a board book, and those board books are like the little kids ones where the pages are super thick cardboard.
Mm.
Well, I got a blank one off of Amazon or somewhere, and when it came, I went, "Oh crap!" That they were way thinner. So of course they warp like crazy because I use medium for this because they're going to be turned and whatever, and it ended up to work out. But it I just had fun with it, and I get on a roll sometimes where I'll, the big rabbit hole thing where Pinterest or whatever it is, and it's just like, oh my God, look at that page. Look at those dudes. I mean, they're, so I'm pulling all those off, and then I tend to alter them all. I don't often leave them the way that they were. I have to mess with them, and I've always been like that with stuff, and
That's so exciting.
and and my work tends to be narrative in nature, and I like it, and hope that people can make their own stories up. because I think I give enough out there that I know what it is to me, but it certainly would not be that to somebody else, but it can be something, and so I've had some interesting conversations about that with people about the narrative piece of that because I like stories and storytelling. And for a while I was trying to double major English and art because I like to write and of course make art, and I couldn't do all that, because I was in the studio too much. Oh yeah, and I'm supposed to write a whole story, and
Wait, let me
so,
ask you, let me back up. You said you wore long coats and vests. Wait, are you telling me you were a dandy?
well, um, when I left home, to set the stage for this, I'm a child of the late 60s. I was a child, so um, I was a junior in high school the summer of Woodstock. And oh, did I so want to go to that? But my father was the commander of the National Guard in our community. So when they were drawing my number for the lottery about who was going to have to go, about being drafted to go to Vietnam, I just flat out just said, I'm going to Canada. If this number is like really bad, I'm out of here. So huge family crap, blue sky high. And they were already having trouble because I chose to wear these wacky clothes. Oh, I had this fireman's coat from London and it had these silver buttons all the way down. I had some cool, fun stuff. And then you get to college and my hair was down to my back, and you do that, that whole thing. And but you know, I wasn't doing that to make a statement. I was just wearing that because I love that stuff. I just thought it was fun. And it's like, well, this is way more fun than buying something off the rack in a store, like a department store. You go to Goodwill or you go to Minneapolis, had a thing that was called Rag Stock, and it had awesome stuff. And so I don't do too much of that any. In fact, I don't even care about clothes at all anymore.
Well, I don't know. Your shirt is pretty snazzy over there. Um, and I
I
only
would
asked this.
say it's 25 years old. Yes.
Well, I only asked because it kind of struck a chord. I was like, wait, what? You wore vest? Because I'm a child of the 80s. I was born in the 80s. So in the 90s, I was wearing, suspenders and pocket watches for no good reason, just
Oh
other
yeah.
than I'm having fun. And it's so funny, in thinking of all of the, how the world turns and how all of a sudden there's this hate and oppression for queers or
Oh
gay
yeah.
people. But it's kind of like, oh, you can't, it just grows naturally. It's like trying to, stop trees from growing. Nope, they're gonna grow. They're gonna in your
Right.
family, in my family.
That's right.
And they just might dress the same,
Mhm.
so that's exciting. I love that. That connected with me. Can you remember a specific moment that touched you with art that kind of cemented the deal? I know you mentioned your high school teacher. Was there another moment when you saw a work of art or something that really moved you in that way? That said,
Mhm.
yeah, this is it.
Wow. I loved art class in elementary school. I always loved making stuff. And I wasn't one of the chosen ones in the class. You know how that goes. It's
As far as art
like,
or just in general?
yeah, art, in the art class, it's like, oh, Jenny's getting hers up on the, thing again or whatever. But I just couldn't wait to get my hands on the stuff to make stuff. So that part um, was, you know, early on. Um, Taking a slight spin off from what you've asked me, um, in my art career, undergrad, I was a print major. I did all kinds of printmaking because I love process. And in fact, I still do printmaking. I'm teaching a class on Saturday, like a print
Nice.
here. And got out of school, I didn't have a press. So that stopped, and I went, oh, I'll do photography. So I got a dark room, and then of course I had to dye it and tone it and mark on it and do that stuff to it. And then I took this one class at the Minneapolis College of Art and Design. It was an intensive class, a week-long class called Making Connections. We made paper, and it was just the start of digital imagery, just the start, back in 96, I might add. And the first time I saw one of my photographs come up on the screen, I went, oh, this is going to cost me so much money. And I flipped. And then the final for that workshop was an artist book. So I haven't looked back since. You know, when you finally find what you wear best, you know, as far, you know, making your art, you know, it's like, okay, I'm home now. I am so home now. And, you know,
Yeah.
and some people search for that forever and don't get there. They can have a whole lot of time, but there's some of my friends, there's always been this frustration level there because they're not quite, you know, whatever. And I just love it, you know,
So
and
true. But I think that's something you have to embrace, right? Because I
oh
think
yeah,
there's just so much myth around this whole suffering artist, and like, it has to be a struggle. When really,
right.
if you're good at A or B, play to your strengths. Why build more
Oh, yeah.
challenges? The world is already so challenging enough, right?
Well, after I took that workshop, I had done a couple of standalone collages besides the artist book. And I was so excited about what I was going to do. I pitched a show to my favorite restaurant in Minneapolis. It was a vegetarian slash vegan place, a woman run restaurant, awesome place to hang art in their place there. And I said, so how do you get a show here or whatever? And Tracy said, well, you know, whatever, just, you know, show me something. And Brian wanted to show. She goes, okay, yeah, you can have the September show. This was like July, and I had like 2 pieces. So it was like, do it, you
Oh,
know.
fantastic.
And it was so affirming when that went up, you know, that I went, okay, that was good. You know, after days of freaking out, going, why did I say I would do that? But, you know, so yeah,
What
it's
if
fun.
what haven't you done that you want to try?
You know, I don't like cloth, but I like the look of sewn paper
Mm.
with that. And I've had trouble with my sewing machine. And so a friend of mine, Jacques, here is going to help me. He makes his own clothes and stuff and wild stuff. And he's going to help me with that because there's something about that stitching that is symbolic in some ways,
Mm.
and graphically I just love black stitching going up and around stuff, you know. And you can do it by hand, but it's really cool to do it with a sewing machine, or you could zigzag it, or you could, you know. So I want to get back to doing some of that, you
Yeah.
know. And
I love that there's so much handling of the work, right? I think
mhm.
um I don't know if you're familiar with DAL-E, the AI program that's making all of these like imageries. So
Oh,
it's mortifying. So I mean, it's mortifying, but it's very also life affirming. And so basically, it's a program that also Google has one where you can say a picture of the moon in DALL-E style, but in collage, and it'll generate an image, not just one. It'll give you 6 versions, so you can pick which one you like, and they are amazing. They're hauntingly accurate, and they're amazing. And and a lot of artists are like, oh my god, we don't need photographers, we don't need illustrators. This damn machine is gonna do everything for us. But then I thought, well, this is where the artist comes back into play because
Right,
there's no soul in any of this. So
right.
when you see the hand in stitching, in collage,
Mhm.
in storytelling, it just highlights our humanity and our soul. And I think that's so
Right.
important. I love that in your work because I really see that in your work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's really fun.
Yeah. And it's and I like doing sometimes 3D stuff, assemblage like stuff, and you've done a few pieces like that as well yourself, and Matt has too. And so that's another whole thing, was that whole assemblage thing with small found objects or whatever. And so I will go through and do some of that, and then it's like have to put all that stuff away and back to
I know
wherever.
there's more than enough white walls. We just have to find them.
Oh,
Before I let you go, I want to ask you what's moving you, what's inspiring you, what are you watching, what are you eating, what are you drinking?
well, about this time of the afternoon here it is about 20 to 2. Um, I put ice in the glass and poured what was left from the morning coffee pot in
Yum,
there so that I can move on and
yum.
stay awake for the day. And but you know, I get really excited when I'm going to do a workshop. Like I mentioned, I'm teaching this Saturday. I'm doing a gel plate printing workshop, and
Oh my
it'll be the second beginning one that I've done. I did one in January, and I was blown away because it sold out, and um, it was so much fun, and people just like freaked out.
I want to go to
Some
this.
people generated 60 prints in one day.
I
You
want
know,
to go to is I have a gel print that is still in its plastic because
oh
I'm so
yeah,
intimidated. I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. I
oh
don't. I'm gonna take
yeah,
it to Albuquerque and you're gonna show me. This is
oh yeah. We can
ridiculous.
certainly do that. It's really fun, and for me, because I was a printmaker in undergrad, you print with on the gel plate with acrylic paint, so it's water cleanup, and you need no press whatsoever.
That's
And
nuts.
so it makes it doable for anyone. I mean, you need acrylic paint, a brayer, and a gel plate, and boatloads of paper.
Oh my God. Honestly, the gel plate also gives me a bit of anxiety. I kind of want to chew on it. It looks like gelatin.
Oh yeah, and originally they did real gelatin printing is what that was about. They would make these cookie sheet things and put real gelatin in it, and it would set up, and then you would print with oil-based inks on top of that. And so these two women said, and what do you got? 3 or 4 days before it gets gross, and you have to keep it in your refrigerator. Who has room for a,
Oh my
a
gosh.
big tray in your fridge? And so they worked and worked until they came up with a formula that did these gel plates.
That's
And if you're
amazing.
careful with them, they'll last forever.
I had no idea that. That's a great history. I wonder who these women were.
Yeah.
What are you watching?
Oh, what am I watching? We just finished up The Man Who Fell to Earth not long ago. That was good. There was also a quirky one that we watched called The Night Sky, and that had Space. I always say her name wrong.
I
She
love
was,
Sissy.
yeah, she is awesome in that. And then that guy, now I'm forgetting his name. He he does the American insurance commercials, but he's an actor. You've seen him. Anyway, they're a old married couple, and it's a sci-fi thing. It
Ooh.
I had no idea where this was going with that, and it was quite wonderful, and a very quirky premise.
How
And so,
exciting.
yeah, I
I love
really,
sci-fi. Oh, how great.
yeah.
And what are you listening
Oh,
to?
and Dark Winds.
Dark
That
Winds. What's that one about?
And do you know of Tony Hillerman's books?
No.
He They were murder mystery things with this sheriff and deputy, and on the um, Navajo reservation. And so it was filmed here.
Wow.
Years ago on PBS, they did 2 of his books, and then nothing, and for a long time, and then all of a sudden, here comes the series out of the blue, and it was terrific, and they just gave him another season. I just saw that,
Oh, I'll look that up
but
too.
we burned right through that, and it was wonderful because the non-native people, the other guy that was somewhat important to the story, who was a real a-hole, was white. So it was kind of a fun kind of flip to that. But the way you see the reservation gives you an window into a world that hardly anybody is aware of if you're not native and live on a reservation.
Yeah.
And so we go, oh my God, I can see, and
Yeah.
so
Heavy.
yeah, yeah. And it was
Fantastic.
good. And there was a little witchy part to it too, which
Nice.
I loved. And
Oh, I can't wait
so,
now.
yeah. So
Fantastic.
that was really good. And the synergy between the 2 main characters was terrific. And so yeah, that's kind of what
How
I'm doing.
excited. And what's your soundtrack? What are you listening to right now?
Oh gosh.
Are you not listening to the Beyonce album?
you know, I somebody was talking about that, and I just went, if her music was playing, I wouldn't be able to tell you that was her, because my tastes are so, and I'm real into independent kind of stuff too, but way into singer-songwriter stuff. And there's an artist who I really like, Hayden Coleman, and he's Australian, I believe. And his stuff I love his voice. He writes incredible songs, not necessarily happy songs, but they are really, I just get hooked right into those. And there's another group that they only really have one album out, and it's called Morning Midnight. And I love their album. It's like one of those ones. Okay, you played that 5 times today, Terry. Do you suppose you could listen to something else?
Listen, I live on repeat, so I have no idea what you're talking about. I listen to the same song 10 times or more. Just, you want to live with something.
Hit me again.
Yes, exactly. Well, Terry, thank you so much for hanging out with me.
Well,
and
thank you for having me.
This is a great conversation. I know everyone's gonna love you. Yeah, you're a staple of you're a pillar of the community.
I love it. Well, I mentioned this before, but you and Elvis have provided a platform for wonderful things to happen. And it's you that that your personality and what you exude, because you happen to be in front of the camera, and you're genuine and you're authentic, and people know that, and people are drawn to that, and so you're welcoming and encouraging, and so those are building blocks for making community, and you've done an incredible job with it.
That means the world to me. Thank you, Terry. Thank you.
Thank
I'll
you.
see you soon with that gel plate.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Sounds good. We got a guest room. Never forget that.
Thank you.
All righty. Thanks so much.
And that was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did it. Okay, let me stop recording real quick.